Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. A WRAL investigation has found flaws in how Wake County Public Schools responded to reports of abuse before Five on Your Side got involved. You may remember our reporting about a Wake Schools teacher charged with assaulting students with disabilities. Five on Your Side's Keely Arthur is here with me to explain the changes the district says it's making now. Keely, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So can you recap your previous reporting about the teacher in this case, James Rencher?
Yes, and to do that, I'm going to take everyone back to 2022. That was kind of the end of that year is when we got involved. And at that point, parents of kids with special needs at East Wake High School, two of them at least, received these anonymous letters in their mailbox. And they said that your son's teacher, James Rencher, is verbally and physically abusing his students, is abusing your students, and administrators know but aren't doing anything. So, of course, the parents, they didn't take the letters to us. They took them to the school, and they asked Principal Stacy Alston at East Wake, is there any validity to this? One parent said he was told, no, it's a disgruntled employee. There's nothing to it. Another parent was told something different. They said, we're going to look into this. We've heard about some of these allegations before, but not all of them. Both parents say they did not hear anything back from any administrators for like a year. And by that point, they had contacted me. And I didn't know what to do with this because it was such hearsay. I always wanted to know who wrote the letter. But the school year was coming to an end. This is 2024, so this is a year and some change later. And one of the kids was going to graduate, and the mom begged me to do this story. So I started looking back into it, and I called the district, and I said, hey, this teacher, there was an anonymous letter sent about him. He transferred to another school. Was he ever investigated? What did you find? Because remember, the parents were never told whether or not any of what was said in the letter was true or false. Either they got nothing. The district said, oh, he's fine. He's teaching at another school. No, we've never investigated him. The next day, the spokesperson for the Wake County School District called me and said, we started asking him about it, and I just want to let you know he quit. So he quit. So we ran a story basically about the fact that it took these families 18 months, or they've been waiting for 18 months. Still, they didn't have any answers. And about the fact that this teacher quit after we started poking around. Then we did another story pointing out that principals are mandatory reporters. By most accounts, principals are required by law to report alleged assaults that they are made aware of within school. That didn't happen. So we were able to shed light on that. Then law enforcement, 3 days after our story aired on a Friday, Monday, the Wake County School District reports these abuses or alleged abuses to law enforcement. Law enforcement looks into it, and they arrest him within the month. So we saw so much change and action because of our reporting. And I know I'm being long-winded here, but the other piece with the letter was the district knows but is not doing anything. So yes, he was arrested. It's kind of a case closed, but we wanted to take it a step further and find out just how much the district knew early on. What was the truth in that part of the letter?
Okay. So in that phase obviously started once he was arrested and that first report airs. So what details did you feel were important to follow up on, and how did you go about doing it to get these questions answered that you still had?
Yeah, it took a really long time. I mean, we always had the parents. They were always really grateful to us because we listened to them and we tried to help them. But then there were these other employees. Somebody sent a letter, and we just didn't know what people knew. So I started trying to talk to coworkers of James Rencher. What did you know? What did you see? And somebody leaked us these emails and messages showing that 3 educators at East Wake, before the letters were sent to the parents, had reported that James Rencher was physically assaulting 2 kids. So we had that, and then we were able to show that not only did the district wait for 18 months to do anything. They knew they had received legitimate reports from educators who raised the red flag and said this teacher is assaulting people. They let him continue to teach still.
Right. And then how did that, he was allowed to continue to teach. Not only that, he transferred to another school, right?
Yeah, the same month the anonymous letters came to the parents and they brought them to the school. He transferred. He transferred to a middle school. So he went from East Wake High School, which I believe is in Wendell, and then he went to the Fuquay Varina Middle School, Herbert Akins Road. So that was one piece. This is the real new piece of all of this. We didn't know what he did there, right? Was everything fine? He knew that he must have known people were sending letters about him and all these things. Did he go to that middle school and was fine? We fought very hard with the police department in Fuquay Varina, just back and forth on what we thought was publicly available to us. And we were able to get a pretty unredacted police report eventually and found that once again, aides say they witnessed physical assaults at this middle school after the East Wake allegations. And once again, they reported it. Once again, it didn't go anywhere until our stories aired.
Wow. So another pattern seeming to emerge there.
Yes. So a very short recap is the alleged assaults happened in East Wake. We know that the principal there and a district official knew about it. That teacher, James Renter, was still allowed to transfer to a middle school and allegedly harmed 2 students there. In one case, dragged a girl 20 feet across the hallway as she said, "This hurt." And he, after those incidents, continued to teach again until we put the anonymous letters on air, and then the fact that the district had never reported any of this to police. It was only after those stories aired that Wake County picked up the phone, called the law enforcement agencies that those schools are within.
Okay. And just to be clear, the charges that he faces, are those only for the Wake County or the East
Yes.
Wake?
Yes, you're following it well. It's such a complicated thing, but correct. So right now, the only charges the public knows about are the ones that involve the only assaults and the only charges are the ones that involve the East Wake children. From my understanding, the parents did not want to press charges at the incidents that happened later at Herbert Akins. When I asked another parent, not those parents, but another parent of a special needs student whose child was harmed at East Wake, allegedly, she said, "This is so hard. Our kids have special needs, and they already are perceived as so different. So it's better." And sometimes parents just want to be like, you know what? We don't want to pursue this any further because our child's already labeled as other. If they're a part of a criminal investigation, it's just going to put more of a negative spotlight on them. So that was the explanation there.
Okay. A tough calculation those parents have to make. Let's take a quick break right there, and we'll be right back. Keely, before the break, you mentioned that your reporting in this case helped lead to Rencher's arrest. And since this reporting, the district has also made some changes. So what are those?
Yes. So they said that they're doing an internal review about all of this. From our understanding, that is being done by the attorney who oversees the school board. So that's happening. They've hired 2 other HR investigators, which I believe are going to be tasked with investigating these types of reports and just making sure they're handled properly. And then they're retraining the principals on their mandatory reporting laws. And they also created this guide. And it's just, I don't think it has anything new. There's no changes to the mandatory reporting laws. But basically, it's just a very nice color-coded guide. It gives examples and hypothetical situations of how people, if this happens in my class and I see this happen, do I have to report it? So I think they're just trying to spell it out better, so that way staff really understands what they need to do in a situation like this.
Right. And do you think that those trainings, those making this more clear on the policy, that would have helped in this case potentially?
I do. I mean, we saw a pattern of alleged assaults continue over the course of a year at 2 different schools. If at any point any of those alleged assaults had they were reported, but had they been investigated by the leadership, Renter theoretically would have been placed on suspension and he would have been investigated. That's usually kind of like a standard operating procedure. None of that happened. And so he allegedly was just able to continue this pattern. And that seems more bothersome to the parents involved in this that I've spoken to than just the act itself. It was the dropping of the ball by so many other people who were made aware of this.
Right. And given that feeling of unease that those parents have, what advice do you have for parents who might be listening to this?
I think parents can feel really defeated, especially parents of kids with special needs. You just feel like, I'm talking to them, they say, you're so protective of them. But also you sometimes, the parents and the aides that I spoke with and the teachers that I spoke with who tried to report this said they felt like it was never going to go anywhere anyway. Or at least like they felt that even when they did try to report it, they saw it didn't go anywhere. So it's tough because my advice is speak up, fight for answers always, no matter what. But that's like my job. So it's easy for me to say. But a lot of these educators felt like they were going to be labeled as troublemakers or were worried that their jobs were going to be in jeopardy if they kept speaking up. And the parents did too. The parents felt like they were going to seem like overzealous parents if they kept bringing it up. So they were in a really tough spot. But, the truth always comes to light if you push hard enough. And I think in this case, it was so important for us to understand what maybe happened in those classrooms because that teacher is now no longer working as a teacher. And principals are getting trained better. So we have seen positive change because these teachers tried to report this.
All right. Thank you so much, Keely. We appreciate your reporting on this. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with triangled news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.